This week on Environment, the pollution we don't see. High street fashion labels are pressured into ditching toxic chemicals in production.
These chemicals have a range of toxic properties, most noticeably affecting hormone systems.
What's the most hazardous room in a home? We ask an expert to reveal some of the most unlikely danger zones.
Without wanting to frighten you, a child's bedroom is always the room the least healthy.
And going public on air pollution. Chinese authorities agree to improve the way they measure particles in the atmosphere.
In China, we lag very far behind the air quality standards of the US and of Europe.
Fashion is no stranger to accusations of ethical and environmental malpractice. The use of fur and leather has long attracted criticism from around the world, but today a damage far less visible is making headlines after environmental group Greenpeace shamed leading brands for using toxic chemicals in production. Now one of the world's largest retailers, Zara, has announced it will change the way it produces its clothes.
The term fashion victim has never been so apt. Concerned about the release of toxic chemicals, Greenpeace analyzed 141 articles of clothing bought at 20 stores around the world. Their finding, 63% contained chemicals dangerous not just for the environment, but for human health.
We found some chemicals to be very widespread in these items in about 2/3 of the products we tested. For some other chemicals, we found very high levels in about 4 items. Of toxic chemicals that can affect reproduction, and also residues of these chemicals in many other items as well. And in 2 products we even found traces of carcinogenic chemicals that could be released.
To push for change, Greenpeace targeted Zara, the world's largest clothing retailer, which sells more than 850 million items a year. Bowing to public pressure, parent company Inditex agreed to go toxin-free.
Inditex is committed to zero discharges of all hazardous chemicals from the whole life cycle and all production procedures by the 1st of January 2020.
The group also agreed to eliminate the most dangerous substances even sooner and force 100 of its suppliers to publish data about the release of hazardous chemicals. But Zara's not the only one making an effort, and some designers go even further. This company, founded in 2013, is committed to producing organic clothing, from A to Z.
Starting with the cotton seeds that are planted in India, we've thought about the whole chain of production from beginning to end. These garments aren't going to put you or the environment in danger because when you wash them, they don't release any toxic chemicals.
Brands like Adidas, H&M, and more recently Levi's have already taken measures to protect the environment and their customers. Greenpeace has now set its sights on other fashion giants, including Armani, Gap, and Victoria's Secret.
We've come to a home renovator's paradise, a store which sells flooring, insulation, paint and varnishes. Many of the products here are made using volatile organic compounds, chemicals which bring an invisible pollution into the home. A new regulation in France now demands manufacturers to acknowledge their presence.
This ticket shows the level of emissions given off by the product. A+ means the product is only slightly polluting, while C is very polluting.
We spend 20 to 22 hours each day in enclosed spaces, and according to the World Health Organization, 2 million people die each year due to the poor quality of indoor air. And whether it's the home, office or transport, the most dangerous places are not always where we might expect. This afternoon, Frederick considers himself a predator. His prey can be found inside the Rousset household, home to a family of 5.
Hello, I've come to inspect your house.
Specifically, he's here to inspect the quality of air inside this recently renovated apartment.
The most important thing in a house is that the air circulates. It's very hot in your bathroom. The hotter it is, the more humid the air. And the more humid the air, the more polluted it is.
Next stop is downstairs in the children's bedroom, a room where a high quality of air is particularly important, and yet rarely the case.
Without wanting to frighten you, a child's bedroom is always the room the least healthy. It's not the bathroom, it's not the kitchen, even if there is a lot of smoke. In a child's bedroom we make an effort, so we paint it nicely, often with many strange chemicals. And there are lots of blankets, lots of cushions.
These types of pollution are studied here, at a replica house outside of Paris equipped with multiple sensors both outdoors and inside.
Here we're in an experimental home. There's no one living here, but we simulate occupants. Importantly, we're able to modify the house.
The source of pollution varies. While it may come from outside, it can equally be caused by the daily activities of occupants in a home. Formaldehyde, phthalate, carbon monoxide, particulate matter. The list of potential enemies is endless.
We've studied the effects of particle emissions. To do that, we cook, for example, a steak, we light candles, we also use cigarettes, and see how this material is circulated all around the house.
These measurements are studied at specialised laboratories. Mairead Dundas is a microbiologist with a specialty in mould, present in 1/3 of French households. These fungi emit gases that pose a risk to our health.
What we're most at risk of inhaling is invisible. These fungal particles can have serious health effects, such as allergies, infections, and irritations.
Research shows the level of pollution found inside is often higher than that found outside, which is particularly concerning given we spend 85% of our time indoors. A new technology could soon help. This air purifier, developed at France's prestigious École Polytechnique, has the ability to both capture polluting substances and oxidize them using an ionized gas of cold plasma.
We can absolutely imagine this in all enclosed buildings or confined spaces, at one's home, work, or in public transport.
It's cost €400,000 to bring the product to the market. Next year will go on sale for €1,000. It'll be up to the customers to decide whether that's a small price to pay for clean air. More than 99% of pollutant gases are invisible, including one of the most damaging, carbon monoxide from cars and trucks. The vehicles also emit fine particles, which on their own we can't see, but in large quantities are responsible for what's known as smog. The Chinese city of Beijing is one of the smoggiest in the world. Its authorities have been reluctant to publish data on this type of pollution, but have just bowed to public pressure to improve the way they monitor their air.
For the last 2 years, Chung Jing has regularly measured air pollution for his NGO Green Beagle. He usually selects children's playgrounds in the centre of Beijing, where the young and elderly alike are exposed to the fine particles that make up the city's invisible pollution. And even on a sunny day, the level of pollutants can be high.
The fine particle rate is above the 0.015 annual threshold that should not be exceeded, so it is still dangerous. Even if it appears to be a nice day, there are still many things that need improving. In China, we lag very far behind the air quality standards of the US and of Europe.
Like many others in China, Chung is dissatisfied with the official measurements of pollution. At the end of 2011, while Beijing was blanketed in thick smog, the US Embassy started to publish readings from its fine particulate monitoring system. There was such an outcry on China's Twitter equivalent Weibo that authorities were forced to start publishing their own readings for the 2.5 micron pollutants, as well as the 10 micron records they were already issuing.
In this tube, there's a tunnel of air keeping the pollutants bigger than 2.5 out, and retaining the particles smaller than 2.5. We then send them to this pump to collect samples.
Beijing now issues small particulate pollution figures, and a national plan is now underway to publish similar measurements in 74 cities across China.
Since last year, the general public has become aware of these fine particulate pollutants and how dangerous they are for human health. If the government had kept refusing to measure the smaller 2.5 micron particles, it would have gone against sound public health policy. So the government has agreed with the people's request to publish these figures.
Now debate on invisible pollution is allowed, Chinese companies are also getting in on the act. Broad Group is planning on mass-producing this mobile phone that will also have the ability to measure particulate air pollution. However, some criticise what they see as corporations cashing in on public health fears, while others defend the right to do green business.
There's a democracy issue in the environmental measures debate. This kind of innovative device gives more power to the people, and if companies promote empowerment by producing these devices, I don't see anything wrong with it.
Now that measuring and reporting fine particulate pollution is no longer taboo, Chinese people are now awaiting the next stage, a better way of combating the problem.
We leave you this week from one of the most recognisable attractions in Paris, the Basilica of Sacré-Cœur. But while a church might be good for the soul, it's not necessarily good for the lungs. The candles and incense burned inside during religious services emit high levels of particulate matter. Studies have shown that this matter can be 10 to 20 times higher inside churches than what's considered safe to breathe under European air pollution standards. Ways to avoid the health risks include not spending too much time in a church or making sure it is properly ventilated. That brings us to the end of Environment this week. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.